Hello everyone, this is Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I don't get the chance to do this, and so I am going to stop and do it now. I would like to give a round of applause to Tulsi Gabbard. So recently Tulsi Gabbard has made waves. She went to Syria for an expedition. She wanted to essentially see what's actually going on here. Much of the news that people are getting from the West are not coming from the war zone itself. They're coming from people relaying information. Some of those people are not necessarily to the good. So Tulsi Gabbard got back. She went on a media run. And people have been treating her oddly. To some degree, you can almost even call attacking her for going. Now, part of it has to do with what she uncovered when she got there. Part of it has to do with her being unapologetic and giving that story about what she got there. And look, I love it. If these are the progressives that are coming up, this is not bad. So, let's watch. This is Jake Tapper on CNN. By the way, Jake Tapper is an absolute clown. I have a hard time in seeing how a state-run media agency would have run this. Like, so if, let's say if Russia is doing a television broadcast and the government says, read the story, this is the line that we want you to put out for the public. I have a hard time believing how CNN would have handled this story any different. So, see if you see it too.
Welcome back to Lead Our World Lead now. A desperate plea for help. 7-year-old Bana Alavet has become the face of innocent civilians suffering in Syria's deadly civil war. The young girl is now safely living in Turkey with her family. But earlier today she tweeted a message to President Trump, quote, "I beg you, can you do something for the children of Syria? If you can, I will be your best friend. Thank you," unquote. This comes as a fragile ceasefire between Syrian government forces and rebel factions is holding for now. Joining me now in a CNN exclusive is Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii. She just returned from a secret trip to Syria. Congresswoman Gabbard, thanks for coming and sharing your story with us.
Hello, Jake. Good to be with you.
So you were in Syria for 4 days. Did you meet with President Bashar al-Assad?
I did. You know, my reason for going to visit Syria was really because of the suffering of the Syrian people that has been weighing heavily on my heart. I wanted to see if there was, in some small way, a way that I could express the love and the aloha and the care that the American people have for the people of Syria, and to see firsthand what was happening there, to see that situation there.
What did Assad have to say?
Initially, I hadn't planned on meeting him.
Why did you go to Syria? Well, I mean, I wanted to go to see if I can do anything about the suffering of the kids. I mean, look, so many people have died. I really, this bothers me. Did you see Assad? We hadn't planned on it. What did Assad say? Can we talk about the fucking kids? All right, go on.
The opportunity arose to meet with him. I did so because I felt it's important that if we profess to truly care about the Syrian people, about their suffering, then we've got to be able to meet with anyone that we need to if there's a possibility that we could achieve peace. And that's exactly what we talked about.
Now, I know the maxim that people say in the military, that you don't make peace with your friends, you make peace with your enemies. But obviously Bashar al-Assad is responsible for thousands of deaths and millions of people being displaced during this 5-year-long civil war. Did you have any compunctions about meeting with somebody like that, giving him any sort of enhanced credibility because a member of the United States Congress would meet with someone like that?
You know, it's as if Jake Tapper is wholly unaware of Iraq, right? He's like, I mean, he's responsible for that. I mean, look at all the refugees. I mean, look. Jake, what do you think that many of those people from ISIS came from? Like, when the United States government, when George Bush attacked a country that did nothing to us, and murdered upwards of 1 million people. Many of those people, when he disbanded the government and everything else, those were trained military men. Many of those people went streaming into other parts of the countries, whether it was Syria, whether it was that space between Iraq. Many of the members from ISIS, put it this way, there's a direct link between ISIS and Iraq. No, it's not a situation where one necessarily immediately calls the other. But there's a big damn difference between a stable Iraq as opposed to an Iraq that's been absolutely destroyed and where part of the country can be taken by essentially a rebel army. I don't understand this. I gotta be honest, this is kind of why I stopped watching network television. This seems absurd to me. It's an illusion. And even the conversation that she's having with him, she knows what went on over there. And yet she can't be necessarily honest and abrupt with her information. It's almost as if she's like, well, look, I have to, she has to ease her way into it to say, yes, the United States have been funding terrorists. What? Yes, I went to talk to people. They wanted to know why it wasn't the United States funding terrorists. She shouldn't have to apologize for that. And not just shouldn't have to apologize for it, how these people are responding to her should have a completely different tenure. This is network media. This is what you've been fed over and over and over again for year after year after year. It's a facade. At the moment where something comes in, where there's a bug in the machine of sorts, and somebody breaks the rule in regards to being honest, they don't know how to respond. He's going to start stammering and everything. You mean. Truth scares them. And to some degree, that would mean that they know what the truth is. They just don't report it. Go ahead, Jake.
Whatever you think about President Assad, the fact is that he is the president of Syria. In order for any peace agreement, in order for any possibility of a viable peace agreement to occur, there has to be a conversation with him. The Syrian people will determine his outcome and what happens with their government and their future. But our focus, my commitment is on ending this war that has caused so much suffering to these Syrian people, to these children, to these families, many of whom I met on this trip. It's important for us to stay focused on doing what is in their best interest and what is in our best interest, and doing what is necessary to make that happen. So,
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a friend of yours, also a military veteran, a Republican, he said on Twitter when he heard about your visit, quote, "Fact-finding mission, fact, 50,000 plus dead children in Syria. Tulsi Gabbard, I hope you did meet with their butcher Assad." Now,
at every opportunity, he's trying to hit her in the knees. Why are you trying to hit her in the knees? I mean, look, a congressman from the United States government went to another country. While going to that other country, she met people in that country that said, why is your country paying arms and weapons to terrorists? They're raping and murdering people. They're functionally kill squads. Why is your government doing that? Tapper's response is, hey, this guy says something on Twitter. How do you feel about what the guy said on Twitter? Is the shit that I'm saying true? Like, there's something morally depraved about that, man. Somebody comes and said this war that's been killing hundreds of thousands of people, that the United States have actively sought a role to undermining that government in order to make the government fall apart. Obama wanted regime change. That's not the topic of conversation. Like, the topic of conversation doesn't go beyond, well, hey, you went and you talked to the head of that country. Looks like the head of that country killed a lot of people. He's not a good guy. The United States doesn't interact with people who are not good people. I mean, come on, that sounds ridiculous, right? He's the head of that country. Who else are you going to interact with if you're going to try to make a deal? But Jack Tapper doesn't care about the deal. He doesn't. I'm sorry. There's no way you can look at that conversation and think anything other than that. Every time she mentioned the kids, every time she mentioned, like, look, we need to focus on ending this war, and we are essentially aiding terrorist groups. Yeah, but did you meet Assad or not? I mean, this guy said that the guy's bloodthirsty. I know, Tapper, but, I mean, can we, try to resolve this idea of stopping the war? Like, hey, let's stop funding those groups that are doing that bad stuff. Yeah, but you went to see Assad, right?
Now, Assad has used chemical weapons on his own people. You said it's going to be up to the Syrian people, but there really aren't free and fair elections in Syria.
There really aren't free and fair elections in Syria. It's like, I mean, yeah, look. I mean, you say the people of Syria, but it's not really the people of Syria, right? I mean, because they don't have free and fair elections. Was a Democratic Party election fair? What about the elections where they were throwing people off the polls? Or you show up to vote one day and you're no longer a Democrat. You're no longer a Republican. They are living in a fucking fantasy land, man. It's amazing.
I'll tell you what I heard from the Syrian people that I met with, Jake, walking down the streets in Aleppo, in Damascus, hearing from them. They expressed happiness and joy at seeing an American walking through their streets, but they expressed a question. They said, why is it that the United States, its allies and other countries, are providing support, are providing arms to terrorist groups like al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, Arar al-Sham, ISIS, who are on the ground there raping, kidnapping, torturing, and killing the Syrian people, children, men, women, people of all ages. They asked me, why is the United States and its allies supporting these terrorist groups who are destroying Syria when it was al-Qaeda who attacked the United States on 9/11, not Syria? I didn't have an answer for them.
Obviously, the United States government denies providing any sort of help to the terrorist groups that you're talking about. They say they provide help for the rebel groups. Tell us more about...
The reality is, Jake...
He tried to go immediately to tell us about something that doesn't make me uncomfortable. You're making me uncomfortable. You're blowing my high right now. I'm J-Tap. That should have been mind-blowing, right? She essentially said the United States has been funding terrorist groups under the guise of calling them moderate rebels, in the same way they would call torture enhanced interrogation. Amazing. Jake Tapper's response was, the government says that's not very true. The government says it's not true. CNN is a multi-billion-dollar empire in regards to media. They have vast resources at their disposal and probably can get to any particular point in the world that they wanted to get to. Why is CNN always in the dark about this stuff? She had to take the trip over there to actually see what was there. What the hell was CNN doing? Certainly not their job.
The reality is, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because this is an often talked about thing by people like Adam Kinzinger and others saying, well, we've got to support the moderate rebels. Every place that I went, every person that I spoke to, I asked this question to them. And without hesitation, they said, there are no moderate rebels. Who are these moderate rebels that people keep speaking of? Regardless of the name of these groups, the strongest fighting force on the ground in Syria is al-Nusra or al-Qaeda and ISIS. That is a fact. There's a number of different other groups. All of them essentially are fighting alongside, with, or under the command of the strongest group on the ground that's trying to overthrow Assad. The Syrian people recognize, and they know, that if President Assad is overthrown, then al-Qaeda or a group like al-Qaeda that has been killing Christians, killing people simply because of their religion, or because they won't support their terror activities, they will take charge of all of Syria. This is the reality that the people of Syria are facing on the ground, and why they are pleading with us here in the United States to stop supporting these terrorist groups. Let the Syrian people themselves determine their future. not the United States, not some foreign country.
And we've been showing video of your trip from your trip. In the minute we have left, tell us the most striking image you have from your visit to this war-torn.
Look, that should have been mind-blowing. Honestly, I don't quite understand how that goes off without a hitch. And look, I'm getting to the point where I think Americans know. I think Americans just don't care. There's a difference between those things. When Snowden revealed all those revelations about spying and everything else, the public was like, well, okay, yeah, I guess that kind of sucks. She just said the United States government has been funding terror organizations in order to destabilize another government. And look, I know a lot of Democrats want Hillary and all this other stuff. I'm sorry. Your candidate's position on this was absolutely absurd. It was. And it was worse than Obama's, who was already as batshit crazy as you can get on this issue. His idea was to fight ISIS and Assad at the same time, as if those things were mutually exclusive for one another. There were situations, ridiculous, crazy, just absurd situations, where groups that the US military was arming were fighting groups that CIA was arming. Hillary Clinton's bright idea was, let's put a missile defense system in Syria. Who the hell are you using a defense system for? Who? The only person who has jets over there is Russia. Are you going to shoot down a Russian jet? If Trump is going to work with them to end this shit, let him end this shit, please. I mean, this is one of those things where they're like reflexively against everything he's fucking doing. I don't give a shit how he ends it. I just want him to end it. The previous president's idea was absurd. He wanted to essentially just have this war bubbling on and on and on, murdering people, making these really shitty decisions. If they're going to work with Russia to end it, let them end it. Tulsi Gabbard, good job. You're awesome. Thanks, guys.